Hi, John here, and this is Up for Excel. Today we're going to be going through dual axis charts. So you can see on your screen we've got a couple of examples of what we might be doing. So taking, say, some sales and profit numbers, putting them into a couple of different types of dual axis chart so the numbers become more comparable and it's easier to see how two series compare to each other. We'll also be going through some of the other do's and don'ts with regards to dual axis. Certainly dual axis charts have their uses, and I'm going to take you through all aspects of them today. So let's get on with it. I'm starting with some basic sales and profit numbers here. So we've just got 2 years worth of data. And effectively, if I quickly highlight all that using the shortcut keys Control Shift and the arrows, and then Alt F1 to produce a quick chart. And I will put that up here. Make it a bit larger. All right. So that's a very, very basic chart. And one of the noticeable things about it is that the profit numbers are considerably smaller than the sales numbers, as you'd normally expect. In fact, it can be much smaller than that in many businesses. So it's very hard to see if, other than start doing some calculations, whether a particular month or quarter, as it is here, is particularly profitable or not. So it would be nice to increase the size of those profit bars in some way, but make it clear what we're doing, because we don't want to be totally dishonest. So one very quick way of doing that is to create a dual axis chart, and that is what we're going to do right now. Simple way to create a dual axis chart is you click on the series on the chart that you want to display on a second axis, and then if you go to this Format Data Series at the side here on the right hand side and click on Series Options, you'll see that you can simply select secondary axis. Now, straight away what that's done is put them on top of each other, which is probably not exactly what we want to see. So we've got various different options here. We can change the gap width, make one wider or narrower so that we can see them one or the other. So we can do that. We could change our chart type to a combo chart type where we could show one as a line, for example. So that's not bad. So we've done that. So change that to a line. Straight away we've got something where we're showing a separate line of what our profitability would look like. And that's actually quite a reasonable way of showing it. And it shows that straight away you can see Q4 was particularly profitable because not only did it have the highest absolute profit, but it also exceeded its sales bar, even though it's on a dual axis. Whereas, say, Q4 in Q17 might have had more sales here, but it had a lower profit margin, and every other profit is under. So that is a really quick and simple way to create a dual axis chart. So now we need to look at some of the ways we can improve this chart. So I'm going to go back actually to changing our chart type back to a standard column chart where we had it like that, and put that again back on a secondary axis, unfortunately, and we're going to narrow it to, so we're going to do that on 500, and then on the next one we're going to widen it considerably to something like that. So we're showing bars within bars. Okay. Now, I actually think I want to show these slightly lower because what I want to do, show these slightly wider as well, actually. Probably make them quite a bit wider now, maybe somewhere around there. All right, and the reason that I've done that is because I want to put some data labels in here to get rid of these dual axes, because one of the things on a dual axis chart that can get very confusing is it's not immediately obvious which axis the data, each block of data is referring to. So looking at this chart, it's not obvious that the profit figures come from the right-hand side of the chart and the sales figures come from the left-hand side of the chart. We could probably work it out, but it's not necessarily obvious at all. So I find it quite useful, really, to put data labels on the bars and remove the axes completely to avoid any of that sort of confusion. So we'll do that right now. So if we go up to design, we're going to add some elements. So first of all, data labels, and we're going to put them inside the end. And I'm actually going to then format these, format the number for a start. So I've got a custom number format that's in millions that I'm going to use. And I'm going to also, let's find the alignment. Yeah, so alignment, I'm going to change the text direction to that. And then on the home menu, I'm going to be able to make them bold, and like that. And I'm also going to change the color of these bars to a shade that I'm happy with. Let's say that. I actually think I'll change that back to black now. All right. And I'm going to do exactly the same treatment on these bars. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Now, unfortunately, this bar here is too high, and some of them, I don't like the way they're nearly touching it. So we need to scale this axis back a bit. Now, one of the ways we can do that, while the axis is still on there, it's kind of easier because you can just click it. Incidentally, when the axis has disappeared, you can still manipulate it and format it by going to the Format toolbar and clicking on the name that of what you want to format. So secondary vertical axis will still be there even when you've hidden it on that list. So we're going there. So we're going to format this by changing the data points. So instead of having an automatic maximum, I'm going to up it a little bit. So I'll add 5%. So that's lowered the bars. You can see that actually looks pretty good. Now, the only problem is that when you get new data, because I've manually manipulated that, you will have to do that again. But I do have a video coming up along the line on dynamic charts, and I'll go through all of that kind of automation in charts. So make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then you won't miss that video when it comes out. Right, so I think we're now in a good position to be able to delete the axes. So we can just click on the axes as we just did. So I need to, right, so click on that, hit delete, click on that, hit delete. So straight away we're looking a lot better. Okay, so deleting the axis seems to have removed the scaling. So we're going to have to add that axis back. Axis, secondary vertical axes. Let's do that for a moment. So that there, if we go to axis options, none, label positions none. So that removes that one. We're going to need to show the primary axis as well. So add a chart and an axis, primary vertical. There we go, we're back in the room. Right, so now we will go and do the same thing here. So we will remove the, say, no labels, and we should be able to say no tick marks, none of them, no fill, no line. There we go. Right. We can also delete the grid lines, and we can just delete them by highlighting them. And then this axis here, we can say again, no fill and no line. Right, that, we can make that bold. Maybe up the font size ever so slightly. Right, okay. We put the chart title on of sales and profit. Again, make it a bit larger, make it bold, and move that legend position. So we can, if we do format legend, we can say we want it at the top. And there we go. I think that can still be bigger. Right, so that is one version of a dual axis chart where we're being very clear and open about something. Imagine we are trying to make our company look particularly profitable just by having pictures that make it kind of look like it. So if I was to plot it on a secondary axis, now if I then click on this axis and we'll go to the maximum. If we start saying the maximum, let's put that up to 4. No, it looks a bit ridiculous. Let's go 6 or something like that. So we're now showing sales and profit. We've got the two axes showing. Our profit bars are sort of out of scale, if you like, to our sales bars. But we know there's a problem because we can see we've got a dual axis chart. But if I was to click on this axis and now say, let's say we don't want the axis showing, and we're going to get rid of all of the formatting of it as well. So it's on there, so no fill and no line. Makes it look like you've got a very profitable company on your hands. Now I'd say that's deliberate deception, but certainly this is one thing you can use with dual axis charts. It would look far better if we changed that to a line, for example. So we put that as a line, and again we want the line, because we changed the chart type, we have to then put it on the dual axis again and go round the houses, unfortunately. But again, we can use, if we change this axis position, for example, axis options again, so where did we have it, as 6, wasn't it, something like that. That can look deceiving as well, where you've got sales and profit figures going on. You could put data labels on there and remove all the axes, but not on this line here. Or you could move that one back to automatic and get a much more sensible chart out of it. Again, have no label on that one. Potentially whack that up to 4. On this one, I think we go none as well. And then on these, we can add data labels as we did before. And just put some custom number format on it. And we could leave our chart something like that. Potentially even moving some of these grid lines out as well. And that's not a bad looking chart. We're being disingenuous about the profit numbers again, but it shows the correlation. So anyway, I just wanted to take you through a couple of different chart types. So you can, with your dual combo things, we could potentially have like an area chart going on underneath. That can be quite useful, as you can see. We could have lines, stacked bars, sorry, stacked columns like that, as we've seen before. Lines with dots, I think, are quite useful. So there's all manner of different templates you can go through, but I think something like this, lines with markers, probably quite good. So there you have it. Dual axis charts. So you don't want to miss the next video, because we're going to be producing a chart like this one, which is a stacked clustered column chart. Now, this is not a default chart type in Excel, so we have to use a few hacks and general sort of Excel tips and a bit of wizardry to come up with something like this. So make sure you hit subscribe and the bell icon, and then you will not miss out on how to produce this very special chart. Okay, see you next time.